It started like any other sunny Saturday in our quiet, family-friendly neighborhood, the kind where you hear lawnmowers humming, kids riding their bikes, and neighbors chatting over fences. But today was different. Today, we had something exciting. A brightly colored food truck had rolled up near the park, setting up under a shady tree with the smell of sizzling tacos and fresh lemonade in the air. It wasn't just any food truck. It had charm, character, and a warm, welcoming vibe. Music played softly from a speaker, families gathered around, and laughter filled the space like something straight out of a summer movie. Parents took photos of their kids holding giant burritos. A local guitarist strummed a few tunes, and honestly, it felt like the community was finally alive again after months of boring HOA events. Then came the click, click, click of heels. You know the sound. Clipboard in hand, phone glued to her ear, and sunglasses that screamed, "I have authority." Karen made her entrance like she was storming a crime scene. She didn't smile, didn't greet anyone, just stood there squinting at the truck like it personally offended her sense of order. She circled the truck, snapped photos like she was on an undercover mission, and muttered things like, "unregistered vehicle," "violation," and "I'll have this removed by sundown." No one really paid attention at first. People thought she was just being her usual dramatic self. But then she started loudly calling someone, presumably the HOA or maybe animal control, who knows, ranting that the truck was blocking emergency access, drawing a rowdy crowd, and violating community standards. The vibe changed instantly. The guitarist stopped playing. Parents began whispering. The truck staff looked confused but polite, offering her a free taco to calm her down. She scoffed, refused, called it a bribe, and then she said the line that made everyone freeze. "I'm calling the police to have this food truck arrested." Arrested. A food truck. For serving tacos. You could feel the tension shift from annoyance to disbelief. People exchanged looks. The truck owner stood his ground, silently, with just the hint of a smirk on his face. And that's when it all started to unravel. Because Karen had no idea who this food truck really belonged to. Karen didn't waste a second. While everyone else was enjoying their lunch under the blue sky, she was already storming toward the food truck like it had personally offended her existence. Her heels clicked faster this time, her lips pursed like she was ready to scold a child, and her phone was still glued to her hand. She didn't introduce herself, didn't ask politely. She came in hot. "This is private property," she barked, jabbing her finger toward the ground like she owned every inch of concrete beneath her. The young man behind the food truck's window blinked in confusion, spatula still in hand, as if he couldn't quite process how a plate of grilled chicken could warrant this level of rage. "Excuse me?" he asked, keeping his tone calm. But Karen was already on a roll. "You people can't just show up wherever you want, setting up shop, attracting noise and trash. This is an HOA-regulated neighborhood. That means rules. That means standards. And that means no greasy taco vans cluttering our streets." Her voice rose with each sentence. She didn't care that people were watching. In fact, she wanted them to watch. She wanted witnesses to her justice. The owner, a man in his late 40s wearing a faded Support Local Heroes cap, stepped down from the truck. His face was patient but firm. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "we have permission to be here. This spot was cleared with the HOA weeks ago. We're part of the community fundraiser." But Karen cut him off with a sharp laugh. "Oh, please, that's not how our HOA does things. I'm on the enforcement subcommittee. I would know, and I've reviewed every permit issued this month. Your name's not on any of them." She waved her phone at him, as if showing off an invisible list of offenses. She wasn't here to ask questions. She was here to shut him down. By now, a few of the neighbors had gathered nearby, trying to stay subtle, but the spectacle was too loud to ignore. You could see people glancing over from picnic tables, sipping their sodas more slowly, kids whispering to their parents, "What's happening?" The guitarist from earlier had quietly packed up his instrument. The cheerful music was gone. The once festive energy started to shift, all thanks to one determined woman with a clipboard and a superiority complex. The truck owner calmly reached into the side compartment and pulled out a small binder. "Here," he said, offering it to her. "Everything's in here. HOA communication, event schedule, vendor agreement. It's all cleared." Karen snatched the binder with exaggerated skepticism, flipping through it like she was auditing a multi-million-dollar scandal. Her eyes scanned the documents, but her mouth twisted as if she'd tasted something sour. "This looks fake," she snapped. "Anyone can print emails. Where's the official seal? Where's the HOA president's signature?" She shoved the binder back, almost dropping it. Then, just when it seemed like her tantrum might end, she said it, loud enough for the whole park to hear. "I'm calling the police. Right now. This is an unauthorized commercial operation on private land. It's a violation of HOA Code 6.3, and I will have this shut down today." There was a beat of silence, the kind that makes your chest tighten. The truck owner didn't flinch. He simply folded the binder and placed it back where it came from. "All right then," he said. "Call them." That caught Karen off guard. She blinked, mouth slightly open, not expecting to be challenged. She expected fear, an apology, maybe even a quick retreat, but the calm confidence of this man rattled her. Still, she wasn't going to back down now. She dialed, muttering to herself about law and order and taking back our streets. The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on anyone. It was a food truck at a community fundraiser, not a drug den, not a rave, not some dangerous operation. Just tacos, lemonade, and a guy wearing a t-shirt that said "Grill Sergeant." But Karen made it sound like a national emergency. As she spoke to the dispatcher, pacing like a general on a battlefield, she kept looking around, expecting the neighbors to cheer her on, but they didn't. People avoided her gaze. Some even rolled their eyes. A few started quietly filming with their phones. Still, Karen didn't waver. "Yes, I'd like to report an illegal vendor disturbing the peace," she said into her phone. "Yes, I believe they're operating without a permit. They've set up right near the park and they're causing a crowd. We have small children here. This is a safety issue." She emphasized children like this was an episode of Law and Order, HOA Victims Unit. When she hung up, she turned to the truck staff and smiled triumphantly. "They're on their way. You'll be shut down before dessert." One of the staff members, a teenager barely old enough to drive, looked visibly shaken. The owner placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry," he said softly. "We're good." Karen overheard. "Oh no, you're not good," she sneered. "You're in big trouble." Then she did something that almost no one expected. She walked a few feet away and began motioning to the kids playing near the food truck, telling their parents to keep them away from the grease fire. A mom stepped in, frowning. "Excuse me, they're fine. He's grilling, not running a fireworks show." Karen ignored her and kept pacing. Minutes passed like hours. The tension was thick. The food truck kept operating, though now the staff moved a little slower, a little more cautiously. The crowd had grown again, this time not for the tacos, but for the drama. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when the cops showed up. Karen stood off to the side with her arms crossed, like a villain waiting for the final boss fight. The truck owner stood his ground, saying nothing, just watching. His patience didn't come from ignorance. It came from knowledge. He knew something Karen didn't, and that knowledge gave him the quiet confidence of a man who was playing chess while Karen raged through a game of checkers. The sirens finally echoed in the distance. Karen's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Here they come," she whispered, straightening her blouse and fixing her hair like she was about to receive an award. She stepped forward, ready to greet them like the hero of the day, but the officers weren't looking at her. They didn't rush out with clipboards or start issuing citations. In fact, they didn't look concerned at all. They parked, stepped out, and one of them gave the truck owner a nod. Not the nod of suspicion, the nod of familiarity. Karen's smile faltered just a bit. She started speaking first, eager to lead the narrative. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. I've been dealing with this unauthorized vendor for over an hour. They're violating multiple HOA codes, disturbing residents, operating without a permit. I need you to shut them down immediately." The officers exchanged glances, then looked back at the food truck. The older officer spoke up. "Ma'am, what exactly is the issue again?" Karen launched into a dramatic explanation, waving her arms, referencing health codes and safety concerns. The officers let her finish without interruption, though one of them was clearly suppressing a smile. Finally, the younger officer turned to the truck owner. "Hey, you got that binder with you?" The owner nodded, handed it over, and the officer casually flipped through it. "Yep," he said. Same one from the precinct fundraiser. Looks good. Karen's head snapped toward them. Wait, what did you say? The officer looked up, not unkindly, but firmly. This truck? They've been working with us for months. Fundraisers, memorial events, police appreciation days. They're legit. One of the best vendors we've got. Karen's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her confidence drained visibly, her face losing color. The officers weren't on her side. They knew the truck. They liked the truck. They ate at the truck. And now she was the one standing in the middle of a public park, looking like the fool who tried to shut down a fundraiser that supported the very people she'd just called for backup. The crowd, silent a moment ago, began to murmur. Smiles returned. Phones recorded freely. The guitarist even unpacked his case again. But the twist? That was just the beginning, because Karen hadn't even heard the part that would really leave her stunned. You'd think that after being publicly embarrassed in front of half the neighborhood and the local police, Karen would have taken a moment to reflect, or at the very least, retreated quietly with her clipboard between her legs. But no, that little reality check didn't humble her. It fueled her. Her bruised ego wasn't just sore, it was on fire. And Karen, being Karen, wasn't about to let a food truck or a crowd of taco-loving neighbors ruin her legacy as the self-declared guardian of HOA law. The very next morning, while most of us were still sipping coffee and scrolling through memes of her viral moment, oh yes, someone did post the whole thing on the community Facebook group and it was racking up likes like crazy. Karen was already on the offensive. This time, she wasn't yelling in public, she was lawyering up behind closed doors. And not just with any lawyer. She called her cousin, who apparently passed the bar in 1997 and hadn't practiced HOA law since flip phones were a thing. But to Karen, that was enough. She showed up at the next HOA board meeting with a binder so thick it could double as a doorstop, filled with printed screenshots, badly highlighted violations, and what she claimed was a full legal case against the food truck and anyone who approved it. She didn't stop there. She named names. She accused board members of favoritism, bribery, and even suggested the truck owner might have forged those permits. I demand a full investigation, she said, slamming her folder on the table like it was a gavel. This isn't just about tacos anymore. This is about the integrity of our entire neighborhood. The room was silent, not because people agreed, but because nobody knew what to say to that level of dramatic overreach. But here's where it gets crazier. Karen wasn't bluffing. She filed a formal complaint not just with the HOA board, but with the city council. She claimed the truck posed a zoning violation, a safety hazard, and that it had operated a propane-powered grill within 500 feet of a playground, which, according to her, was some obscure regulation she dug up during a 2 a.m. Google spree. The city responded, of course, because they had to, but their response was lukewarm at best. They sent an inspector who arrived 2 days later, clearly confused as to why he was even there. The truck had left, the event was over, and when he saw the report Karen filed, which included blurry photos, printouts of comments from the Facebook group, and a diagram she had clearly drawn in Microsoft Paint, he politely closed the file and said, "There's no active violation here." But Karen didn't stop. Oh no, she went on a legal warpath. She started showing up to community events with a camcorder, recording everything like she was gathering evidence for a Netflix true crime documentary. She even recorded kids playing tag, claiming their laughter was audio proof of how noisy and disruptive the area had become since unauthorized vendors started showing up. Parents complained. The board received letters. Tensions rose. And guess what? The board, which had previously backed the food truck, started to crack. Not because they agreed with Karen, but because they were exhausted. HOA meetings became battlegrounds. She questioned every expense, demanded every communication be made public, and even tried to force a vote to ban all food trucks indefinitely unless reviewed by the enforcement subcommittee, which conveniently only had her as a member. Now, here's where things take a legal twist that no one saw coming. The truck owner, who had kept quiet this whole time, finally spoke up, but not in a meeting, not in a Facebook comment. He hired his own lawyer, a real one, and then it dropped, a defamation notice sent directly to Karen. The letter was calm but devastating. It listed every false statement she made. claims of forgery, bribery, permit violations, and stated that unless she issued a public apology and ceased her harassment, they would proceed with a lawsuit for damages. Karen, who had spent weeks parading her legal knowledge, was suddenly very, very quiet. The board received a copy, so did the city, and so did the Facebook group admin who pinned the notice to the top of the page with the caption, "Maybe just let people enjoy tacos next time?" Karen didn't take it well. She accused the truck owner of trying to silence her. She called the lawyer a bully in a suit. She even posted on Nextdoor about being targeted by a secret group of taco sympathizers. But it didn't stop there. Her defiance triggered a deeper review of her actions, because here's the plot twist. That event she tried to get shut down, it was sponsored by the local police department and the mayor's community outreach fund. And when the mayor's office got wind that someone was threatening legal action over a city-approved fundraiser, they responded too, this time with a cease and desist letter directed at Karen. She was ordered to stop harassing event sponsors, misrepresenting city permits, and filing baseless complaints. Suddenly, Karen wasn't on the offensive anymore. She was under fire from every direction, but she didn't surrender. She doubled down. She hired another lawyer, this one younger, sharper, but clearly unaware of what they were getting into. She filed a counterclaim, yes, a counterclaim, alleging emotional distress, neighborhood defamation, and that she was being cyberbullied by the community at large. She even submitted screenshots from the Facebook post where someone called her Karen the Taco Slayer. The court date was set. The neighborhood buzzed. People made popcorn memes and started calling it Taco Trial. The HOA, embarrassed and trying to avoid more drama, tried to distance itself from Karen. She was removed from the enforcement subcommittee in a closed-door vote. That only made her angrier. She started showing up to homes, knocking on doors, trying to convince residents to testify on her behalf. Most politely declined. A few filmed her and uploaded it, adding fuel to the fire. The trial day arrived. It wasn't a big dramatic TV courtroom, but it might as well have been for how many people showed up. The food truck owner walked in calm, collected, his lawyer by his side. Karen came in late, flustered, arms full of folders, tripping over her own bag. The judge listened to both sides, and when Karen took the stand, things went off the rails. She ranted about noise, about playgrounds, about permits and tacos, and how this used to be a peaceful neighborhood before the salsa trucks invaded. The courtroom chuckled. The judge didn't. When it came time for the food truck's lawyer to speak, it was short and brutal. They presented the permits, the emails, the fundraiser approval from the mayor's office, and the cease and desist she ignored. Then came the witness, the police officer who knew the truck owner personally. "Best tacos in town," he said, then confirmed the truck was not only legal, but invited. Karen had nothing left. The judge dismissed her claims, fined her for filing frivolous motions, and upheld the defamation notice, warning her that any further harassment could result in actual damages. The courtroom cleared out, but the story didn't end there. Outside, neighbors gathered. Some clapped. A few brought tacos, and the truck owner? He offered everyone half off to celebrate. Karen walked away in silence, not a clipboard in sight. But even as she vanished from the scene, we all knew it wouldn't be the last time she tried to rise again. Because Karen never really loses. She just retreats, plots, and waits for the next round. But this time, the whole neighborhood was watching and recording. For weeks, the community had treated the taco truck as just that, a beloved, spicy-smelling symbol of resistance against Karen's HOA tyranny. People came for the food, for the laughs, and for the quiet rebellion that came with each order of carne asada. But what no one knew, not even the nosiest of neighbors with their Ring doorbells and late-night group chats, was that this truck wasn't just feeding families. It was feeding something much bigger. And what happened next would flip the entire situation upside down and leave Karen more stunned than the day her petition was laughed out of city court. It all started with a seemingly innocent question from a kid. One Saturday afternoon, the truck had parked at the edge of the park again, not as part of an event, but just for the heck of it. The sun was out, kids were playing, and people were lining up like it was Black Friday at a burrito stand. In the middle of the crowd, a little boy tugged on the sleeve of the taco truck guy. Everyone just called him Manny, but no one really knew his last name or where he was from. "Why do you always smile so much when people thank you?" the boy asked. Manny knelt down, handed him a free churro, and said something nobody forgot. Because I'm not just feeding you, I'm feeding the people who fed me first. That line spread like wildfire. At first, it just sounded poetic, even sweet. But then folks started wondering, what did he mean by that? Was he just being humble? Or was there something deeper behind this man with the best guacamole in a 100-mile radius? That's when things got really, really weird. A few days later, a post popped up in the community Facebook group. It wasn't a rant or a meme or even someone trying to sell a barely used elliptical. It was a blurry photo of a group of people eating tacos inside a hospital. The caption simply said, "Looks familiar?" And it was. The truck, the menu, even Manny. He was standing beside a woman in scrubs, both of them smiling like lifelong friends. Suddenly, comments exploded. Is that our taco guy? What hospital is this? Wait, does he donate the food? No one had answers, so a few amateur sleuths got involved, because of course they did. Within hours, someone tracked the logo on the nurse's badge and matched it to a local veterans medical center. Then someone else confirmed it. Manny had been serving free meals every Wednesday at that center for over 4 years. Quietly. No press, no signs, no social media shoutouts, just tacos. Every week. For veterans, nurses, and support staff. People started connecting dots fast. One woman recalled that the truck was missing every Wednesday, no matter what event was going on. Someone else remembered that Manny once refused a large paid booking for a corporate event, saying he already had a commitment that day. It all started to click, and the truth hit harder than a habanero salsa shot. Manny wasn't just a food truck guy, he was a veteran himself. Honorable discharge, served 2 tours, came back with a limp and a mission, to give back to the people who had stood beside him in the worst moments of his life. The truck wasn't just a business, it was a tribute. And Karen? She had spent weeks, months, trying to destroy it, without ever knowing. When the full story broke, first on Facebook, then in the local paper, everything changed. A journalist interviewed Manny. His humility made it even more powerful. "I don't need recognition," he said. "But if it helps someone understand what service really means, then maybe it's worth sharing." And boy, did it help people understand. The same HOA board that had tiptoed around Karen's complaints suddenly flipped faster than a sizzling tortilla. They issued a public apology, not just to Manny, but to the whole community. "We failed to protect what makes our neighborhood great," the statement read. "We allowed personal vendettas to cloud our judgment." And just when people thought the saga couldn't get more emotional, the most unexpected thing happened. The mayor herself held a press conference, not for some generic city update, but for the taco truck. She announced a new program, Heroes Who Serve, a rotating food truck initiative that would highlight veteran-owned businesses across the city. And the first permanent participant? Manny's truck. He wasn't just celebrated, he was elevated. But Karen? Karen vanished. After the courtroom loss, the public backlash, and now the complete reversal of public opinion in Manny's favor, she went dark. No posts, no meetings, no rants. Some said she moved temporarily to stay with her sister in another city. Others claimed they saw her walking her dog at odd hours, avoiding eye contact like a vampire in daylight. Either way, her reign was over. Her power, gone. Because the community had chosen a side, and it wasn't hers. Manny became more than a taco guy. He became a symbol. Kids drew him in chalk on driveways. Parents told his story like a bedtime parable. Local schools even invited him to speak about service and kindness. And every single person who had ever doubted him now stood in his line with pride. What made it even sweeter was the detail that came out later. The first ever permit he used to park in the neighborhood. It wasn't just randomly approved. It was recommended by the mayor's office after they saw his quiet work with veterans and wanted to spread it into local communities. Karen had tried to take down a literal city-endorsed hero, and now everyone knew it. But here's the part that really sent chills down spines. At the very next HOA meeting, a seat was left empty, Karen's. On that chair, someone had left a gift, wrapped in tissue paper, topped with a note that simply said, "For the one who almost ruined tacos." Inside was a single, beautifully wrapped burrito. No one ever claimed it, but the message was clear. The war was over. Karen lost. And the neighborhood would never forget the man behind the grill, or the lesson that exploded from a food truck that served a lot more than just food. But just when you think the story had peaked, something else was about to surface. Something even Manny didn't see coming. You'd think after being humiliated in court, shamed by the community, exposed in the local paper, and essentially erased from HOA decision-making, Karen would have learned her lesson. But nope. For a while, she did go quiet. No neighborhood patrols, no clipboard walk-bys, no early morning pictures of violations to spam the HOA email thread with. She avoided eye contact, didn't show up at meetings, and didn't so much as glance at the taco truck that had now become a community icon. But silence doesn't always mean surrender. Turns out, Karen had one last card to play, and she played it like someone who had nothing left to lose. It started when a few residents noticed something strange. Manny's truck had to change locations again, this time not by choice. Rumors began swirling that there were anonymous complaints about unsafe parking, grease runoff, and public nuisance smells. These weren't just snide online comments, they were formal, city-filed complaints. And guess whose name appeared on one of them? Not Karen directly. She'd learned her lesson about going public. But her cousin's name was on one of the filings. The same cousin who didn't even live in the area, but happened to drive through and found it offensive. Classic Karen move. Use someone else as a puppet when your hands are already too dirty. But by now, the community wasn't buying any of it. They'd seen this playbook before. That's when everything began crumbling for her. One of the younger residents, a law student with a strong sense of justice and a sharper memory, remembered something. She dug up old records and found a long-forgotten piece of HOA documentation. Karen had built a storage shed behind her house years ago, and there was never a permit filed for it. Not with the HOA, not with the city, not anywhere. A small wooden structure painted to match her house, completely illegal. For years, she'd hidden it behind a fence and threatened anyone who dared question it. But now, the tables had turned. The community went full reverse. Karen on her. People began snapping pictures of the shed, videos surfaced showing her sneaking trash bags into it. A full HOA complaint was drafted and submitted, signed by over 30 homeowners. And the irony? The very rules Karen had used as weapons for years were now being thrown right back at her. When the HOA finally investigated, it wasn't just the unpermitted shed they found. There were zoning violations, expired landscaping treatments, and, get this, a broken sprinkler head that had caused minor water runoff into a neighbor's property, the same neighbor Karen had once fined $100 for overwatering. And then came the letter. Certified, official. The HOA fined Karen over $2,000 for multiple violations and ordered her to remove the shed within 30 days. Non-compliance would result in further legal action and potential property liens. The same Karen who once bragged about having an HOA in her pocket now had her back against the wall, no allies, and nowhere to run. But fate wasn't done dealing out karma. One rainy afternoon, the mayor, yes, the mayor again, visited the taco truck during a community picnic organized right on the HOA greenbelt. Manny was the guest of honor. There were speeches, music, families smiling, and children wearing little taco defender pins. Karen? She was inside her house, blinds shut, as the sound of laughter and mariachi music flooded the street. At one point, a drone flew over for aerial photos, and you could see her roof's disrepair, something she herself once threatened another homeowner over during a stormy season. The hypocrisy was now physically visible, but the final nail wasn't the shed, or the fines, or the mayor's smiling photo op with a taco in hand. It came from a place Karen had never expected. Her own son. He was in college now, visited rarely, but had seen all the news online. He posted a statement on Facebook saying, "I love my mom, but I don't support what she did. I grew up with Manny's family. They were nothing but kind to us. I stand with the truck." That post went viral in the local groups. Comments poured in, some supportive, some brutally honest, but Karen's reputation absolutely demolished. Weeks passed. Manny's truck didn't just survive, it thrived. He launched a second truck, hired 2 veterans full-time, and was invited to speak at a citywide event for small business owners. Meanwhile, Karen's home, once the model house of the block, was now the only one with overgrown bushes, a sagging mailbox, and a lingering for sale by owner sign that no one seemed interested in. She had burned too many bridges, lost too much goodwill. The same community she once controlled with passive-aggressive fury now flourished without her. And that's the real beauty of the fallout. Karen didn't just lose a petty war, she lost her grip on the one thing she valued most: control. The people around her had awakened. They saw how far kindness could go, how strong a community becomes when it unites not through fear, but through love, resilience, and, yeah, maybe a few tacos. Manny proved that quiet service always outlasts loud entitlement. And Karen? Well, she finally got a taste of her own medicine. And it was bitter, cold, and wrapped in the very rules she once used like weapons. So if you're someone who loves watching karma unfold like a slow-motion domino of justice, if stories like these give you hope that good people still win, and if you believe in standing up to bullies, even the clipboard-wielding kind, then this is the place for you. Hit that subscribe button, because I've got plenty more real-life HOA horror stories, entitled people getting exactly what they deserve, and satisfying showdowns that'll make you want to grab popcorn and never miss a beat. This is where the underdogs win, and we're just getting started.